Hello, I'm Jeff Lewis. My wife Melissa and I are on the board with I.C.H.E. Kirk Smith asked if I might fill in for him this week on Take 5. I'm happy to do it. In fact, I'm pretty excited about what Kirk's doing. You know, one of the things that the board asked him to do as the executive director was to connect across the state. It's a big state and it's a big job, but we really appreciate all the effort he's putting in, trying to get out and speak to groups, trying to communicate with people by email or Facebook or whatever needs to be done. And these little video snippets aren't bad either. I'm glad to talk, and I appreciate you taking a few minutes to listen. In my day job, I make my living as an attorney. And so people usually think when I'm talking, I'm going to be talking about legal things. I don't mind talking about legal things. In fact, homeschool law is one of the things I really enjoy talking about. It's a blessing to be here in Illinois. The homeschool laws are one of the things that our state has gotten right, very right. But I have to say, I do hear some people occasionally misstate what the law requires. Or maybe better said, they say what the law doesn't require. What I mean is, a lot of folks will just say, well, Illinois doesn't really have any requirements for homeschoolers. Or Illinois law doesn't require us to do anything. That's not true, and it's not quite accurate. Illinois law does require us to do something. We're required to teach. We're required to teach certain general subject areas. And we're required to teach those subject areas in a way that corresponds to what the children would be receiving, along with children of similar age in the public schools. That's obviously a paraphrase, but I want to simplify it so that people understand that teaching is a requirement, subject matters are requirements. In fact, there's other requirements too that if we don't take them seriously, well, on an individual basis, we can be penalized, fined, and even worse. On a corporate basis, we may start losing some of the freedom that we have. So be careful how you talk about the homeschool laws in Illinois. If you want more details, let us know or check out our website, ICHE.org. We've got some analysis, and then, of course, our good friends over at I.C.H.E A have a lot more detail too. You know, some of the ways that folks talk about homeschool law, I guess, sort of reminds me a little bit of the way a certain lawyer once talked to Jesus. I know most people don't think about lawyers talking to Jesus, but maybe I'm just overly aware of these things. But they do. In any event, there was a story recorded in the book of Matthew where a lawyer was sent to Jesus to ask him a specific question. He went and he asked him, so what's the greatest commandment in all the law? Now, the law consisted of 10 commandments, of course, over 600 commands in the Old Testament, and 6,000 plus pages of commentary by the rabbis and teachers. And so Jesus had a lot to pick from, but he managed to sum it all up. And he said the greatest commandment in the law is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul. And of course, the second is like it, to love your neighbor as yourself. And Jesus went on to say, those aren't just the greatest commandments, those are the commandments. You can sum up the entire law in 2 little sentences. It's amazing. What's even more amazing is those 2 little sentences remind me every day of where I fall short. I don't love God with all that I have and all that I am every day. Sadly, I don't love my neighbors as well as I love myself. But I'm glad the story doesn't stop with the lawyer questioning Jesus. The story goes on to the cross, where Jesus exchanged his righteousness for my sinfulness. What an amazing thing. What an amazing concept that the one who taught us so simply what the law was fulfilled every little tiny detail, all 600 and some commands, and then some. You know, if you haven't had anything to talk about with your kids lately, haven't done any Bible time, or just maybe have not had any fresh ideas, ask them if they've heard the one about Jesus and the lawyer. It's not a joke. There's no punchline. But you can find it in Matthew chapter 22, kind of near the end of the chapter. It'll give you something to talk about. And you can talk about how a lawyer questions and how God himself answers. And then you could talk about how God also saves, because that law is one we break over and over again, but Praise God. His blood is sufficient. Anyway, we hope at I.C.H.E. that you find lots of fresh ways to talk to your kids about Jesus, about the Bible, about all manner of spiritual things. If there's a way we can help, let us know. If you've got ideas, questions, suggestions, drop us a line. We take old-fashioned snail mail, phone calls, emails, all of it. We'd love to hear from you. I think Kirk will be back next week. Not too much variety at once, but thanks for letting me sit in for him. It's been a delight.